This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, January 10th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
LA's mayor is defending the city's response to the devastating wildfires that have destroyed thousands of structures.
We will absolutely do an evaluation.
I'm Jim Roope in Los Angeles.
A show of bipartisan unity as Washington, D.C. says goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A sharply divided U.S. Supreme Court is saying no to President-elect Donald Trump. Donna Warder, Washington.
A judge has scrapped President Biden's Title IX rules, reversing the expansion of protections for LGBTQ plus students. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
On Wall Street, investors back at it after markets were closed yesterday for the funeral of former President Jimmy Carter. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The Senate to take up the Laken Riley Act.
But we are in the lawmaking business here.
I'm Clayton Neville.
All ahead on America in the Morning. As Mother Nature becomes a bit more cooperative, allowing firefighters to make progress on wildfires burning in the nation's second largest city, Jim Roope reports the blame game begins into the worst fires in Los Angeles history, still raging out of control.
From hydrants running dry to the mayor being out of the country to a lack of firefighters, there's plenty of finger-pointing going on. Let's start with the water, because even President Biden commented on that. Hydrants in Pacific Palisades went dry. Nowhere else, just in the Palisades. In the other three fires burning, plenty of water in the hydrants. Now, according to the LA Department of Water and Power, 3 tanks holding 1 million gallons each dried up as the demand for water exceeded the supply. Actor James Woods blamed city leaders et al.
But they couldn't pump any water because there was none, because they didn't put them in the reservoirs.
President-elect Donald Trump blamed Governor Gavin Newsom, alleging he's dumping water from rain and snow into the ocean.
It's very sad, because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific.
President Biden had a different explanation. He blamed Southern California Edison.
The utilities understandably shut off power because they're worried the lines were going to be blown down and spark additional fires. And when it did that, it cut off the ability to generate pumping the water. That's what caused the lack of water in these hydrants.
Either way, it appears there is water, and there will be some accounting of what happened when all is said and done. Many blame budget cuts. LA Mayor Karen Bass approved a budget of nearly $13 billion that included a $17 million reduction to the LAFD's budget. She's facing criticism, too, for being out of the country on a diplomatic trip for the inauguration of the president of Ghana. When asked why she left and what she had to say about the city's response to the wildfires, she said,
We will absolutely do an evaluation to look at what worked, what didn't work, and to correct or to hold accountable any body, department, individual, etc.
Finally, a warning to would-be crooks. There have been 20 arrests so far of people who allegedly were looting the evacuated homes. New LA County DA Nathan Hochman says those alleged crooks and all bad actors better beware.
You will be arrested, you will be prosecuted, and you will be punished to the full extent of the law.
Jim Roope, Los Angeles.
In a striking display of democracy and bipartisan unity, every living former president was on hand in the nation's capital to say goodbye to America's 39th president, Jimmy Carter. John Stolnis has more from Washington.
The coffin carrying former President Carter from a hearse outside and into the National Cathedral, with family, friends, and a who's who of Washington lawmakers across multiple administrations gathered to say goodbye. Seated in front, Bill and Hillary Clinton, George W. Bush and former First Lady Laura Bush, and Barack Obama sitting next to President-elect Donald Trump, with Melania Trump next to him. Joined by First Lady Jill Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, President Biden eulogized his friend, remembering his endorsement of Carter's presidency when Biden was a 31-year-old senator.
It was an endorsement based on what I believe is Jimmy Carter's enduring attribute, character.
Biden said President Carter embodied everything a nation could want in a moral leader.
We have an obligation to give hate no safe harbor and to stand up to what my dad used to say is the greatest sin of all, the abuse of power.
Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and lifelong Carter friend Andrew Young called him a gift to the country.
You have been a blessing from God, and your spirit will remain with us.
And Carter's grandson, Jason, said his grandfather was ahead of his time.
Wanted to decriminalize marijuana, deregulated so many industries that he gave us cheap flights and, as you heard, craft beer. Basically, all of those years ago, he was the first millennial.
During the funeral, Trump and Obama were seen talking and laughing together at times. After it was over, the president-elect was asked about their interaction.
It did look very friendly, I must say. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it, how friendly it looked. I saw it on your wonderful network just a little while ago before I came in, and I said, boy, they look like two people that like each other, and we probably do.
Carter's body will now be taken to the tiny Georgia town of Plains, where he will be buried next to his wife, Rosalind. John Stolnis, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better together. It's the lowest price of the season on the top-selling Sleep Number i8 smart bed. Limited time, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. U.S. Supreme Court denies Donald Trump when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Update on that winter weather affecting the South. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Some areas from the Central Plains into the south have already picked up over half a foot of snow as a potent disturbance carrying some Gulf of Mexico moisture continues to progress through the region. For today, places where precipitation may fall as a mix of snow, sleet, or even freezing rain at times include the zone from southern Arkansas into far western South Carolina. To the south of that general area, rain is more likely to be the precipitation type from the Houston area to coastal South Carolina and southern North Carolina. However, flurries or some steadier snow can be expected from northern Arkansas to western Virginia and points northward across Michigan, eastern Minnesota, and just about all of Missouri today. Storm total snowfall of at least 1 to 3 inches may extend from North Texas through western New York, much of North Carolina, and even the northern suburbs of Atlanta. Behind the storm, those same hard-hit areas of the central and southern plains from the Texas Panhandle into Oklahoma and Kansas have a drier day in store as high pressure builds into the region. Much of the upper Midwest dries out as well, as do Colorado and New Mexico, after a Thursday that brought snow in spots. Most of Florida also stays dry through the day, along with the Mid-Atlantic and New England as high pressure shifts offshore. Even residents along the vast majority of the Rockies should have a rather dry Friday. However, the dry conditions continue to be a problem over Southern California, where extreme fire conditions are likely to continue, despite the strongest wind gusts gradually decreasing later today. Gusts to 30 to 50 miles per hour continue for a time near the Los Angeles metro area, with very dry conditions leading to a continued very dangerous situation overall. In Atlanta, snow, sleet, and freezing rain give way to mainly rain late in the day with a high of 35. For Omaha, clouds remain in place for today, the high 28. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The U.S. Supreme Court, in a divided decision, has denied Donald Trump's final appeal to stop the sentencing in his so-called hush money case. Donna Warder reports that the president-elect will be sentenced in a New York court this morning.
A sharply divided U.S. Supreme Court is saying no to President-elect Donald Trump when it comes to delaying his sentencing in the New York hush money case. The 5-4 decision clears the way for a judge to sentence Trump. Trump was convicted in what prosecutors call an attempt to cover up a $130,000 hush money payment to porn actor Stormy Daniels. Trump has denied any sexual encounter with Daniels or any wrongdoing. The justices who wanted to delay Trump's sentencing, Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh. Donna Warder, Washington.
In a separate matter, a federal appeals court in Atlanta rejected a bid to block the release of a portion of special counsel Jack Smith's final report detailing his investigation into President-elect Trump. A judge says no to President Biden's Title IX rules, scrapping protections for gender identity and sexual orientation. Correspondent Haya Panjwani explains.
A federal judge in Kentucky found the rules overstep the president's authority. The regulation expanded a law forbidding discrimination based on sex and education to also prevent discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation. Civil rights advocates hailed it as a victory, saying it gave LGBTQ+ students new resources against discrimination. But it drew outrage from conservatives, who said it could be used to protect transgender athletes in girls' sports. The rule had already been halted in 26 states after a wave of legal challenges by Republicans. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Insurance companies brace for heavy losses in California wildfires. That's in your Friday Business Report, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Trading back in session today on Wall Street, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a quiet day on Wall Street yesterday. The markets were closed for the funeral for President Jimmy Carter and a national day of mourning. On Wednesday, stocks closed mixed, and it's been volatile.
I do think that some of these dips should be bought. I'm not saying that you should go in hand over fist to buy, but I think you should nibble on some of the dips. I think the volatility is going to continue. This policy uncertainty remains a key theme.
248 Ventures, Lindsay Bell on CNBC. Investors are back at it this morning at Jobs Friday. They will comb through the labor data in the December employment report out at 8:30 Eastern. The insurance industry monitoring the devastation from wildfires in Southern California. Countless homes and businesses have been lost.
We're getting very early damage estimates. AM Best says, look, it's way too early, but that the high value of lost real estate is going to generate large economic losses. And of course, a lot of homeowners' policies were canceled over the last couple of years. That meant a surge of new policies for the FAIR Plan. That's the last resort insurer in California. And Pacific Palisades is in the top 5 concentrated areas for those policies in Southern California. The FAIR Plan warned last year its financial stability is at risk if it can't pay. And if it can't pay, all the insurers would then have to chip in to support that system.
CNBC's Contessa Brewer, now the outgoing CEO of insurer USAA with 1 million customers in California. He told CNBC his company is really challenged in that state.
We're not non-renewing our policy holders there. We're working very diligently to stay in the California market.
That's outgoing USAA CEO Wayne Peacock on CNBC. And Hollywood is on hold. Production stopped on a number of series like Abbott Elementary, Grey's Anatomy, Hacks, Suits LA, and more. Airlines, meantime, are trying to handle winter weather delays and cancellations across the South again today. Businesses and schools in many communities are closed because of freezing rain and snow. Volkswagen says its Scout EV has more than 50,000 reservations now. It's not out for 2 more years. Going to cost about $60,000. The new Scout is a revival of an American brand that was once owned by International Harvester. It was discontinued in 1980. On today's watch list, we do have that December jobs report this morning, and earnings are coming from Delta Airlines, and the Detroit Auto Show opens.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Also today on Capitol Hill, illegal immigration front and center. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. On Capitol Hill today, the Senate will take up the Laken-Riley Act, which cracks down on illegal immigration. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The Laken-Riley Act has already passed in the United States House. It was named for the 22-year-old Georgia nursing school student who was murdered last year by an immigrant in the country illegally. The legislation would change federal law to require ICE to take custody of people in the country illegally and then detain them over theft-related crimes. North Carolina Republican Senator Ted Budd.
And I can't think of a single reason why any senator would oppose the Lake and Raleigh Act.
With an 84-9 vote, the bill easily cleared the 60-vote threshold to advance in the GOP-controlled Senate.
I'm actually very pleased to see that we've got a number of our Democrat colleagues who have changed their tune on this and have allowed us to debate the bill.
Senator John Thune.
If senators have good faith ideas about how to improve the bill, great. But we are in the lawmaking business here, and we are not going to entertain political showmanship.
A full vote is expected in the Senate today. I'm Clayton Neville.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke together, urging Donald Trump not to abandon more military aid for Kyiv. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky are urging the incoming Trump administration not to give up on Kyiv's fight against Vladimir Putin. In their final meeting before Trump takes office, both men made their case in stark terms. Ending military aid to Ukraine would be disastrous.
It would honestly be crazy to drop the ball now.
No responsible leader would let Putin have his way.
Austin acknowledges he has no idea what Trump will do, but during his last meeting with a group of nearly 50 nations who've been aiding Ukraine, issued a challenge, saying the mission must not fail. If it gives up now, Putin and other tyrants will get the message.
We will only invite even more aggression, chaos, and war.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
America in the Morning for Friday, January 10th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Thousands of homes and other structures have burned down in the Palisades fire in the Los Angeles area. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Jimmy Carter has left Washington for a final time.
God bless you, Jimmy Carter.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The New Mexico Supreme Court has struck down abortion restrictions. I'm Donna Warder.
A winter storm takes hold in parts of the South. I'm Clayton Neville.
Some of the gadgets at CES in Las Vegas are getting two big thumbs down from critics. I'm Ed Donahue.
Gerard Butler and O'Shea Jackson return for an action sequel in theaters now. I'm Kevin Carr.
Screen Actors Guild Award nominations announced. We'll have the highlights. Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There's hope wildfires will die down today in California. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with the forecast.
As several fires continue to threaten highly populated parts of Southern California today, the forecast may provide some less favorable conditions for the spread of fires already in the area as the wind changes directions, and most importantly, lessens in intensity later in the day today. However, gusts of 30 to 50 miles per hour remain likely through this morning from areas just to the north and west of downtown Los Angeles into coastal parts of Orange County to the south and east of LA, as well as the mountains to the east of San Diego. In all of these places, there will remain an extreme risk for fires, along with hazardous conditions from smoke and even some potential for blowing dust. This is, of course, all within the backdrop of rain-free conditions, as the nearest storm brings rain and mountain snow to the Pacific Northwest and perhaps far northern California today. Areas from the Four Corners region of the Southwest to the High Plains and most of the center of the nation look dry today, thanks to fairly strong high pressure nearby. However, a storm centered over the central Gulf Coast picks up steam today after dumping snow, sleet, and freezing rain to parts of the southern and central plains, as well as the south. This means snow lifting farther to the east through the day, reaching places such as Chicago, Detroit, and even Cleveland as moisture from the storm approaches even the interior northeast by the end of the day. There can be 6 to 12 inches of storm total snow from north of Dallas to west of Nashville. Farther to the south, a messy mix of snow, sleet, and even some freezing rain in spots can be expected over northern parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia today. Rain does try to mix into some of these areas for the afternoon hours today, but even the rain can be fairly steady from the Gulf Coast across much of Louisiana into central and southern Georgia. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The death toll is climbing. Thousands of structures have been reduced to ashes. Hundreds of thousands are now under evacuation orders as a series of wildfires fed by hurricane-force winds show no sign of being stopped, despite heroic efforts by firefighters in California. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports both President Biden and President-elect Trump are commenting on the worst wildfires in Los Angeles history.
This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water.
The devastation out there is catastrophic in California. Thousands of houses, schools, businesses burned to the ground. Communities wiped out, lives lost, families forever changed. They're the worst fires to ever hit Los Angeles, ever.
Winds are slowing down, but firefighters are still trying to fight the blazes in the Los Angeles area.
Damage assessments are ongoing at the Palisades fire. However, preliminary reports estimate the damage or destroyed structures to be in the thousands. It is safe to say that the Palisades fire is one of the most destructive natural disasters in the history of Los Angeles.
A series of major fires have killed people, ravaged communities from the Pacific coast to Pasadena, and forced thousands to flee their homes. In Palisades Village, one resident's home was untouched by flames. Dylan Vincent returned to the neighborhood where he's lived most of his life to retrieve some items before evacuating again.
I think we will have one of the most tight-knit communities in the country, and I love everyone here. I know everyone here, and I'm just happy to see the community rallying together. I know everyone's been on the phone texting about how we're going to come back from this, and it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time, but I love Pacific Palisades.
Fierce winds that drove flames earlier this week have calmed somewhat and aren't expected to be as powerful. That could allow firefighters to make progress reining in some of the fires. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A rare image these days, presidential unity at the funeral for former President Jimmy Carter. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the 39th president was remembered as a devout public servant and a man of faith.
Jimmy Carter has left Washington for a final time with a state send-off before burial in his native Georgia. At Washington National Cathedral, a final salute to the nation's 39th president, who once tried to stop Hail to the Chief from being played for him while in office, seeing it as an unnecessary flourish. That was the kind of humility celebrated in the cathedral.
God bless you, Jimmy Carter.
All 5 living presidents were there. President Biden's eulogy focused not just on what he called Carter's chief attribute.
Character. Character. Character.
But also on what Carter taught him.
To understand that everyone should be treated with dignity, respect.
And to stand up to abuse of power, echoing the president's typical criticisms of Donald Trump, who sat watching alongside Barack Obama. Carter's grandkids gave a personal peek in their eulogies at the modest home in Plains.
My grandfather was likely to show up at the door in some 70s short shorts and Crocs.
And inside.
It was like thousands of other grandparents' house all across the South. Fishing trophies on the walls. The refrigerator, of course, was papered with pictures of grandchildren and then great-grandchildren.
And a wall phone. Jason Carter says his grandfather did eventually get a cell phone and called him one day early on.
So I answered it, of course. I said, "Hey, Papa." He said, "Who's this?" I said, "This is Jason." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not doing anything. You called me." He said, "I didn't call you. I'm taking a picture." Nuclear engineer, right? I mean.
Jason Carter says his grandparents were like they always were, even after living in the White House.
They were small town people who never forgot who they were and where they were from.
Jimmy Carter died at 100, outliving an old rival turned friend who had already written a eulogy for him. So Stephen Ford read the one his dad Gerald wrote for the man whom he faced in the 1976 presidential race.
For the many wonderful years
that followed friendship bonded us as no two presidents since John Adams and Thomas Jefferson.
Just before Carter's casket left Washington, 4 planes.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood performed Imagine, sending Jimmy Carter off for burial at that same plane's home with the Ziplocs and the wall phone and pictures of great-grandkids on the fridge. I'm Sagar Meghani.
And the world will live as one.
A unanimous opinion by New Mexico's Supreme Court reinforces the state's position as having some of the most liberal abortion laws in America. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
The New Mexico Supreme Court has struck down abortion restrictions by 2 conservative cities and 2 counties at the request of the state attorney general. Attorneys representing the cities of Hobbs and Clovis and the counties of Lee and Roosevelt had argued that courts could not strike down local abortion ordinances because of the Comstock Act, a federal anti-vice law. Justice C. Shannon Bacon writes in the majority opinion that state law precludes cities and counties from restricting abortion or regulating abortion. Opposition to abortion runs deep in New Mexico communities along the border with Texas, which is one of the most restrictive abortion bans in the U.S. But Democrats in New Mexico have worked to guarantee access to abortion. I'm Donna Warder.
Southern U.S. hit with winter weather and a recap of the Consumer Electronics Show. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. This is America in the Morning. Extreme weather has a tight grip on a number of states in the South. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
States of emergency have been declared in Tennessee, in Arkansas, in Georgia, and North Carolina. Residents in Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas dealing with frigid temperatures, snow, and the potential for ice. In North Texas, school canceled for a 2nd day in a row, causing the kiddos to celebrate.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a backflip when I get home.
Some, though, being refreshed with the concept of online learning.
So, you have to, call your teachers and your classmates, and you have to work, when you're on the call.
Officials in Texas assuring that the power grid is reliable and the lights will stay on aside from any localized outages. Pablo Vegas is the CEO of the Electric Reliability Council of Texas.
We do expect to have more than adequate supply of power to serve the state throughout this winter event. As a point of reference, we have added more than 10,000 megawatts of new generation just this year since the last winter.
At least 4 inches of snow north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The homeless flocking to shelters. Christine Crosley is the director of Homeless Solutions in Dallas.
We are now sheltering 1,268 individuals. At Grand Place at Fair Park, it's 793. At the Tower Building at Fair Park, it's 205.
Dallas Fire Rescue responding to crashes and asking drivers to stay off the road for the good of others and for first responders.
As we always do, we share the importance of staying off the roads and being safe, and we do that with our own personnel as well to ensure that they're being safe in their response. Our goal is always a safe and efficient response, and being effective in that and making it with a shorter en route time and getting to the scene. So with that comes with just, again, saying if you don't have to be out, please don't be out. That does cause some issues at times.
Thousands of flights canceled across parts of the South, including at DFW Airport in Dallas Love Field. Lauren Rounds is with the Dallas Aviation Department.
Both runways and applicable taxiways have been pre-treated by our teams, as well as terminal spaces like our sidewalks and adjacent roadways. And all surfaces will continue to be monitored throughout the event for further treatment as needed.
The system is now tracking east. Snow totals will be the highest from northeast Texas and southeast Oklahoma into Tennessee and parts of the southern Appalachians. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. House, in a bipartisan vote, has passed a bill that would sanction the International Criminal Court if it tries to arrest our nation's allies, including Benjamin Netanyahu. In May, the ICC ordered arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister and his then defense minister for what they deemed as crimes against humanity for Israel's response to the 2023 attacks by Hamas. 1,200 Israelis were killed, 200 others kidnapped. The ICC's warrants are unprecedented, the first time the criminal court has sought arrests for Western allied officials. The legislation, called the Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act, would sanction any foreigner working to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute U.S. citizens or those of an allied country. The Senate is expected to pass that bill. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has resigned from the U.S. Senate effective today. Vance sent an official notice to Governor Mike DeWine, who will be tasked to choose Vance's successor. Vance was elected to the Senate in 2022. DeWine has said he would make a quick decision, and current Ohio Lieutenant Governor John Husted is expected to be on the short list to replace Vance. It appears not everything at this year's Consumer Electronics Show earns a 5-star rating. With that, here's correspondent Ed Donahue with today's tech news.
Some of the gadgets at CES in Las Vegas are getting 2 big thumbs down from critics. They are awards no company wants to receive. Some self-described dystopia experts have judged some CES products as worst in show. One category is the Who Asked for This awards.
When we saw that your washing machine can take a phone call, that was exactly the question that came to our head. Who wants to take a phone call from their washing machine?
Elizabeth Chamberlain with e-commerce site iFixit says there are products like Bosch's Revel high-tech crib that can help monitor vital signs and send it to the cloud.
That's a risk for privacy.
Then there's the $2,200 ultra-human rare luxury smart ring. Its battery only lasts 500 charges.
We think it's really important that manufacturers are held accountable for making things that aren't really good for the planet.
LG's AI refrigerator with ThinkQ was named worst product overall. Features include a screen and internet connection. I'm Ed Donahue.
Friday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Notre Dame nipped Penn State 27-24 in the college football playoff semifinal at the Orange Bowl last night. The Nittany Lions took a 10-0 lead in the first half, but Irish quarterback Riley Leonard returned from the concussion protocol to guide 2 touchdown drives to go up 17-10 early in the fourth. Penn State surged back. Nicholas Singleton capping a 75-yard drive with a TD run, then scoring again minutes later after a turnover to make it 24-17. But Leonard found a wide-open Jaden Greathouse for a 54-yard score to tie it. Then Christian Gray picked off Drew Aller with 33 seconds left, just enough time to get Mitch Jeter in place for a 41-yard field goal with 7 seconds left to win it. Tonight's Cotton Bowl pits Texas against Ohio State for the other spot in the national championship game a week from Monday night in Atlanta. Longhorns coach Steve Sarkisian.
It's an honor, obviously, being the semifinal game. I think it's a credit to our players and to our staff, the work that they've put in. 2 years in a row, we've been in this place now.
NFL wildcard weekend begins with 2 games tomorrow, then 3 on Sunday. Monday night's game between the Vikings and the Rams has been moved to Arizona because of the Southern California wildfires. NBA, the Cavaliers win their 12th straight, 132-126 over the Raptors. Darius Garland with a season-high 40 points. NHL, the Islanders blanked the league-leading Golden Knights 4-0, 30 saves for Ilya Sorokin. The last-place Sabres shut out the Senators 4-0. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen stopped 35 shots. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Witnessing a den of thieves when America in the Morning continues after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. Den of Thieves 2 hits theaters this weekend. Here's Kevin Carr with a sneak peek.
It's January, and that means it's time for terrible action movies and substandard sequels. This week, we get both with Den of Thieves 2 Pantera.
Grab a seat.
The sequel to the modest 2018 hit sees Gerard Butler as a corrupt cop reconnecting with a previous partner in crime. This time, they're working with one of the slickest gangs in Europe, the Pantera.
We're here to rob the World Diamond Center. Over 50 billion in diamonds moves through here each year. This will be our biggest job on the continent.
I know the original Den of Thieves has its fans, but I'm not one of them. These films suffer from wholly unlikable characters. I mean, if you can't make likable characters, at least make interesting ones. This movie does neither.
We have a problem.
Marlboro Man. How'd you guys meet?
Prison. Tinder, actually.
Still, if you want more of what the first film gave you, this does deliver.
And the cop goes gangster.
But dragging the gang back together 7 years later feels desperate and gives us some of the chubbiest action stars since Steven Seagal in the late 90s.
He got over on me. No one gets over on me.
The heist is needlessly convoluted, the cinematography is dark and murky, and at least half of the scenes feature people dressed in black moving through dark halls to avoid other people dressed in black. And the 2.5-hour running time makes it even worse.
You feeling it? Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Den of Thieves 2, Pantera gets 0 diamonds out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
While there was no surprise as to how Wicked and Shogun were being looked upon, there were some big names that were snubbed in the Screen Actors Guild Award nominations. Correspondent Ben Thomas has the list.
The Screen Actors Guild Awards have proven to be perhaps the best predictor for the Oscars.
Something has changed within me.
Wicked topped the nominations for the 31st Screen Actors Guild Awards. It landed 5, including Best Ensemble.
Come with me. What? To meet the wizard. Why couldn't possibly? This is your moment. I'm coming.
And individual nods for Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, and Jonathan Bailey. It even scored a nod for Stunt Ensemble. A number of big names came away disappointed. Angelina Jolie missed out for Maria.
You can throw it all away.
As did Nicole Kidman with her role in Baby Girl.
I'm not a part of that program.
Other acclaimed female actors missing out, Marianne Jean-Baptiste in Hard Truth, and Golden Globe winner Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. While among the males, Sebastian Stan went unnominated for both his portrayal of Donald Trump in The Apprentice.
Well, then maybe I'll run for president, I don't know.
And his Golden Globe winning role in A Different Man. And a few widely forecast supporting performances were snubbed too, including Guy Pearce in The Brutalist and Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2.
Rage. Never let it go.
I'm Ben Thomas.
That's our show for today, Friday, January 10th, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.